Well, hello once again, fellow Star Trek fans. Welcome to another video of mine sharing with you another interesting and exciting little Star Trek piece of memorabilia. This is from Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, I recently made a video about Into Darkness, and I showed you guys I think it was the Ultimate Blu-ray gift set. Into Darkness came with the USS Vengeance. Anyway, that was the Matchbox release, and it had the steel case boxing. So that was pretty cool. This comes not with a ship, but this actually comes with a phaser. This is Star Trek Into Darkness, and it includes Star Trek Into Darkness Blu-ray 3D combo pack and phaser. The box art, you can see Captain Kirk, and he's shooting the phaser, and this is the prop that's in the box. The box itself is pretty straightforward. You got Captain Kirk on the front, and I'll show you the rest in a minute. I put together a little bit of a little clip for information to tell you guys about Star Trek Into Darkness, and I'll be right back after you watch that video. Coming off of his success from the 2009 franchise reboot, J.J. Abrams would return to direct. Star Trek Into Darkness opens on a planet called Nibiru, which is a Class M planet that the Enterprise was sent to monitor. Captain Kirk and Dr. McCoy are being chased through the woods by the native peoples. The shuttlecraft is in a volcano nearby. Mr. Spock is lowered with a detonation device designed to render the volcano neutral. Kirk and McCoy escape to the coastline after Kirk puts up what appears to be a sacred scroll stopping the natives, as they appear to stop and worship this piece of paper. The shuttlecraft is unable to stay in the volcano and heads back to the Enterprise after dropping off Mr. Spock. Kirk decides that the safety of Mr. Spock warrants the breaking of the Prime Directive. He then takes the Enterprise out of hiding in the ocean and heads to the volcano. Mr. Spock is saved, the device is detonated, and the volcano is rendered neutral. Later, in the year 2259 in London, we see a concerned couple worrying over a very sick little girl. We are then introduced to Khan, as he proclaims to the little girl's father, "I can save her." Later at Starfleet headquarters, Kirk is with Spock, as he is reprimanded by Admiral Pike. Kirk had lied on his log in order to save Mr. Spock, and was angry when Spock was brutally honest in his report, essentially hanging Kirk out to dry. Admiral Pike informs Kirk that he is taking command of the Enterprise away from him, citing that he is not ready for the responsibility. While Kirk is sitting in a bar, Admiral Pike joins him and informs him that he himself will assume command of the Enterprise, and Kirk will be kept on to serve as his first officer. Mr. Spock will be transferred to the USS Bradbury. Admiral Pike is then ordered to report back to headquarters. He takes Kirk with him. Headquarters would be attacked by a flying craft. Kirk would see the pilot while he was in the process of disabling the craft with a fire hose. The pilot would then disappear as the craft would fall to its destruction. Admiral Pike would ultimately die in Mr. Spock's arms. He does mind meld with him before he dies. Kirk is visibly upset, as Pike was his mentor and got him into Starfleet. Upon inspection of the destroyed attacking craft, Mr. Scott would find a transwarping beam device in the wreckage. They were able to trace the signal out to Kronos, the Klingon homeworld. Admiral Marcus would then reinstate Kirk as captain of the Enterprise. Kirk requests that Spock is returned as first officer, and his request is granted. Admiral Marcus gives the Enterprise a new mission, which is to go after John Harrison, the terrorist. They are to proceed to the edge of the Klingon neutral zone. They will use new top-secret photon torpedoes which be loaded onto the Enterprise. Mr. Scott would not approve due to the safety reasons, and they would be shielded from scans of any kind. He resigned rather than signing for them. Dr. Carol Marcus, who was in fact Admiral Marcus's daughter, would board the Enterprise under false pretense as a science officer. She wanted to pursue the tubes, she was suspicious of them, and wanted to keep an eye on them. Once at the destination, Kirk, Spock, and Uhura would head a landing party which would take a shuttlecraft to the surface of Kronos to search for John Harrison. They would be discovered by a Klingon D4-class ship and would be attacked. They would later be surrounded by 4 of these ships and captured as a result. The Klingons themselves would later be attacked, which would help allow Kirk, Spock, and Uhura to escape. With the Klingons disabled, the attacker appeared to be one man. He immediately inquired about the tubes. Kirk informed him that 72 of them were taken aboard ship. Upon hearing this, the man immediately surrendered. He was brought back to the Enterprise and put into the brig. Upon interrogation, he gave Kirk the coordinates 2, 3, 1, 7, 4, 6, 1, 1. He then suggests that Kirk opens one of the tubes to learn more. Spock informs Kirk that Marcus is the Admiral's daughter and boarded the ship under false pretense. She has knowledge of the tubes and takes a shuttlecraft to the planet along with Dr. McCoy to attempt opening a tube in a safe environment. The tube is ultimately discovered to contain a humanoid being, which has been cryogenically frozen. We later see Mr. Scott, who has been since reassigned, delivering items to a project near Saturn. We later find that this is in fact the construction of the USS Vengeance. Kirk learns that John Harrison is a fictitious name. The man's name is in fact Khan. He was revived to help Admiral Marcus in creating both warriors and warships superior to any enemy Starfleet would face. Admiral Marcus had a vision of a highly militarized Starfleet. Kirk also learns that the Enterprise warp failure would be a result of Admiral Marcus's attempt to start a war with the Klingon Empire. He had sabotaged the Enterprise and hoped it would be attacked by the Klingons and destroyed, which would start a war between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. Khan would also inform Kirk that the tubes in fact have his cryogenically frozen crew members in them. Mr. Chekhov would take over for Mr. Scott in engineering. He would ultimately get the warp drive back online. The Enterprise would then be contacted by the USS Vengeance, which would be commanded by Admiral Marcus himself. He would demand the prisoner to be transferred to his ship. Kirk informs the Admiral that he intends to take Khan back to Earth so that he and his crew will stand a fair trial. Admiral Marcus says that they had already been tried and sentenced to death, and demands Kirk give him the location and orders the lowering of the Enterprise's shields so he can beam them to the Vengeance. The Enterprise goes to warp and attempt to escape. They head back to Earth. While at warp, Carol Marcus informs Kirk of the power of the Vengeance as well as her new capabilities. The Enterprise is overtaken by the Vengeance, and while still in warp is attacked. The Enterprise is overmatched by the Vengeance and is rendered immobile. In order to stop the attack, Carol Marcus speaks to the Admiral, who is unaware she was on the ship. He does beam her to the Vengeance against her will. He then informs Kirk that he never intended to spare his ship or his crew and prepares to destroy the Enterprise. Before firing the weapons, all the systems on the Vengeance power down, disabling the ship. It was learned that Mr. Scott was aboard her and sabotaged the ship in order to save the Enterprise. He then requests to be beamed over to the Enterprise. The Vengeance is only temporarily disabled, so Kirk puts Spock in command and takes Khan to the Vengeance in an attempt to capture it before it is able to destroy the Enterprise. Kirk and Khan would launch themselves from the Enterprise hatchway and use rocket-powered propulsion spacesuits to hit a hatchway opening on the Vengeance. Later on, Dr. McCoy would discover that Khan's cells would regenerate dead tissue, as a tribble had started to move that had previously died, after being injected with Khan's cells. Later, Mr. Spock would speak to the prime-time Mr. Spock, played by legendary actor Leonard Nimoy. Without divulging any information from the Prime timeline, Spock would inform the Kelvin timeline Spock that Khan Noonien Singh was a vicious criminal and would not hesitate in any way to kill the entire crew of the Enterprise or anyone else that got in his way. Khan, Scotty, and Kirk make their way to the bridge. Kirk tells Mr. Scott to stun Khan as soon as the bridge is taken. The three of them overtake the bridge and Kirk places Admiral Marcus under arrest. Mr. Scott stuns Khan. Kirk lets the Enterprise know that the Vengeance is secure and the Admiral is under arrest. Then Khan wakes up and overtakes Kirk and Mr. Scott. He then proceeds to kill Admiral Marcus by crushing his skull. Once in control, Khan demands that the Enterprise beams over the tubes containing his crew, or he will kill everyone on board the Enterprise. Spock complies and lowers the shields. Khan then beams the tubes to the Vengeance. Before they were beamed over, however, Mr. Spock armed the torpedo heads while Dr. McCoy put the crew into a new stasis, each one into new tubes. Khan beams Kirk, Spock, and Dr. Marcus back to the Enterprise so they could die with their crewmates. The torpedoes explode aboard the Vengeance, disabling it. But since both ships had been damaged severely, they both start to fall into Earth's orbit. Convinced that the Enterprise would not be saved, Spock gives the abandoned ship order. Kirk and Scott are on board and head to engineering to realign the core. Mr. Chekhov would flip the switch to manual override. The core would be surrounded with deadly radiation and it was dangerous. Kirk would eventually be able to kick the core back into alignment and the engines would restart. In a scene taken from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Mr. Scott would inform Mr. Spock that he needed to get to the engineering as quickly as possible. Once down there, Spock found Kirk in a flooded compartment and informed him that he had saved the ship. They professed their friendship for each other, and Captain Kirk eventually passes away. Meanwhile, the USS Vengeance is still falling to Earth. Khan, however, alters its course to crash into Starfleet headquarters in San Francisco. The Vengeance ultimately splashes down in San Francisco Bay and crashes into the city before coming to a stop. Khan would survive the crash. The Enterprise would be unable to beam him up, so Mr. Spock would beam down to go after him. Meanwhile, Dr. McCoy, after seeing the recent deceased Tribble come back to life, puts Captain Kirk's body into stasis to preserve his brain function. Dr. McCoy would say that he needed Khan alive to help save the captain. Uhura would beam down to where Khan and Spock were fighting and stun Khan until Spock is able to overpower him. They all were beamed back to the Enterprise. Captain Kirk would regain consciousness after a couple of weeks after Dr. McCoy was able to use Khan's cells to regenerate his. Khan would be put back into stasis with his crew, and the Enterprise would be repaired and rechristened. Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the Enterprise crew would then embark on its famous 5-year mission. So let's go ahead and I'll show you the rest of the box. You got the sides, Star Trek Into Darkness, it's pretty straightforward. The other side is the same. The color is a little different because it's got the rest of Captain Kirk's picture on it. And the side is plain. This box art isn't really flashy, but I'm dying to take a look on what's inside, and I'm sure you are too, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the plastic. I like to cut along the seam, and we'll see what's inside. Okay, so I try to save the plastic. I mean, it's still open, but I had to see what the phaser looked like. So we'll put the box there, and we'll get to the goodies. The first thing you'll notice is that the DVD is on top of the styrofoam. Let me get this out. It's got a pretty cool... I hope the video can show how cool this is. It's the 3D version of the cover. And this is the sleeve, the Blu-ray sleeve. Let me go ahead and I'll take it out. And this is the sleeve. Got some information on the back. As the same thing as the DVD case, so put that there. And then you got the same kind of Blu-ray disc case, the blue. And this one is not 3D. And you can see Khan on the back. Spectacular, exhilarating, and fun. Disc 1 is the Blu-ray 3D feature film. Disc 2 is the Blu-ray feature film with the special features. J.J. Abrams' Star Trek Into Darkness is the best reviewed blockbuster of the year. When ruthless mastermind known as Khan, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, declares a one-man war on the Federation, Captain Kirk, played by Chris Pine, Mr. Spock, played by Zachary Quinto, and the daring crew of the USS Enterprise will embark on the greatest manhunt in history. It will take all of their skills and teamwork to defend Earth and eliminate Khan's threat in this sleek, thrilling epic. So, you can see the DVD. We'll put that over there. And, alright, let's open this up. I don't know if you can see that. That's really cool. That's really cool. Alright, let me get it out of the package. It's got a nice stand that you can put the phaser on. And as usual, there'll be many pictures. The stand is plastic. Got a little insignia, a little plaque on the inside. So we'll put that there. And now for the moment of truth that we've all been waiting for. This thing is really nice. It's actually, feels like it's actually made of metal. And actually, is this set to kill? And it turns to stun? Or is this set to stun? Or is this, is this set to kill? And this set to stun? But it feels like it's made of metal, which is really nice. Yeah, this is really solid. You know, Kirk is going after Khan. When they're on a Klingon planet and they're fighting, just before Khan shows up, Kirk is using this. Problem is this one's defective. It's not working. Well, I better be careful. I could take out half the wall. But, well, okay, even though it doesn't work, it's not functioning, I'll still take it. Let me show you guys what it looks like in the display. It looks beautiful. It's got the little groove where you put it. And look at that. So, let me zoom in on it so you can actually see the unit. Let me take the discs out so the camera doesn't focus on that. And let's see, let's zoom in on it. It does switch from this mode, which may be stun or kill, to this mode, which may be stun or kill. I want to say this one is stun, but I'm not sure. I'll put it back to kill, or what I assume is kill. rest of the phaser in detail. If I do it this way, you know, there'll be no shaking like from my hand, so you can actually see it better. Star Trek Into Darkness phaser prop. The QMX, you don't know who QMX are. They do really, really cool models, special effect models for the films. At one of the conventions, I saw a video of QMX that they had done the Vengeance, and she was absolutely gorgeous. I wish that they would make a model of the USS Vengeance. I'm not talking about a 2500 scale with something that, you know, is that big. Maybe something along the lines of, maybe not 1/350 because it would be awful big, but even 1/1000 scale, it probably would be a good size. Anyway, I'd love to see the Vengeance come out, or maybe Diamond Select do a Vengeance. That would be pretty cool. But my friends, this is the phaser prop that comes with the Blu-ray, the three-dimensional version of the film of Star Trek Into Darkness. This is a pretty fun prop. It's got a stand. It would go good if you want to have a, you know, costume, you want to dress up like Kirk or Spock. You have to get a holster though. See, the new start, well, the Prime timeline has the Type 1 and Type 2. These do not. This is just one unit. It does have the settings, as you can see, the little wheel. It's solid cast, so it doesn't move. And that, my friends, is a phaser from Star Trek Into Darkness. This is the one that Uhura used to stun Khan while he was, well, pretty much beating up Mr. Spock. Put it back in the stand. There we are. And it's got the 3D movie. That's the outer skin. It's got the DVD, the regular, and the box with Kirk on the cover. So that, my friends, is the latest video that I bring to you, the latest little goodie from Star Trek. Again, this is from the Kelvin timeline, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you were curious what the phaser looked like, I hope this helps satisfy your curiosity. And until the next video, I'll see you very, very soon. Thanks for watching.
Mm-hmm.